United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Glad to hear the minutes of the October 25th meeting sent out. We will have a chance to review. Is there any comments or changes to those minutes? If hearing none, I'll make a motion that we accept the October 25th council minutes.
I'll second that.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So carried. Okay, first.
Do you want to do the second part of them, or do you want them all included as one?
Oh,
Since we printed them in two different,
okay, do we have to approve those, the budget too?
not really, I mean,
We just be part of it?
it's just, we'll make them all one.
Yeah.
Okay, but make sure you sign both of them.
Okay, I thought it was, yeah,
Sorry.
sounds great. Okay, Tom, Sheriff Kleinhelter, introduce yourself and get this mayor forward with you, or?
Yes, yeah. Good afternoon. I got Gil Ackerley, the president of our American Board, and Jake Bauer, a member of our American Board, along with me. The sheriff's office is made up of 5 American Board members, so the other 3 are Laurie Sunderman, Carrie Blessinger, and Dave Schnell, who were unable to make it tonight. But we started this project about 8 or 9 months ago, or somewhere in there, especially really when the world of law enforcement went really sideways, where it was kind of went downhill and it was hard to be a law enforcement officer. We started thinking about how, if that's going to affect us, how are we going to, something we can do to attract or retain our officers. Because we have a good set of deputies. So how do we keep them here in Du Bois County working for us when we know that we don't pay as well as local departments do? And how can we do something that's different? And I know I've talked to numerous council members and we've heard it for years. We only got so much money, but when other departments that are making more money than us, their officers are continuously leaving, eventually that's gonna fall on us. And we started looking at how we can think, something we can think outside the box where it doesn't just focus on money, but yet would be able to retain, or if it doesn't retain that younger guy, maybe it's something that we could attract a different person at a different department to come work for us, knowing that there's a benefit that they would receive at retirement age. And that's where we came up with the ordinance that I put out there to the commissioners this morning. And we had good discussion about it. And I think there's some things that they would like to see tweaked on it. And we will work on that. I guess we're here tonight more or less just to let you guys, I know you've had that all in front of you. If you can give any feedback, what you like, what you don't, something that we can answer, like why we came up with what we did and how we think that it would benefit Du Bois County.
As Thomas talked about, every so often when we do have a new hire there, we used to have abundance of people who wanted to come work in law enforcement, but that's not the case anymore. I think the last time we had four applicants, there, and then that's really tough. You're got to get back to the place where it's a pride issue. When you want to become a law enforcement officer, because it is something different. Been there, done that, and you want to see that continue on. But it's we can only get 4 applicants. You really hope that this could get one good one out of there. I know the city has the same problem issue too, so we're after the same group of people, and we have to secure this part of it, our safety for our future, with our law enforcement. So that's what we're trying to do is just create something that once they get hired, it's something to look forward to, more than just a paycheck. This is a future.
So you guys have all had a chance to look at it and study it. I know I've answered some questions from some of you. Does anybody else have any questions? Like, is there something you didn't like about it? Something you did like about it? Any suggestions? I guess we're open for suggestions.
Anybody want to start here? Or anybody got any comments?
Well, I mean, we're talking about 10 years for healthcare premiums from 55 to 65, right?
Yes,
That's what we're talking about. The only thing that really concerns me is that's the age group that's probably going to cost more or have more claims, higher claims than someone who's younger, just starting out. So that could, I don't know, like Becky said, but that could conceivably cost a lot of money if there's like a large claim in that age group.
but I want you to remember that it is state law that the county provide insurance for them.
Right.
So if they stayed on that, if they paid the premiums, they're still gonna be under the insurance.
Currently, we don't have anybody's on it.
Currently, we do not have anybody on it. And I know I gave, the long-term agenda for 20-some years, and the maximum that you would have on there is like 5 or 6 people at a time. And there's obviously time, and that's either best case or worst case scenario, however you want to look at it, but that's stating everybody stays and does for 20 years, and also that nobody would go get a different job after that would provide them, that they would want to go to that insurance, and everybody would be alive for that time frame. So however you want to look at it, best case or worst case, it's not going to be every person that's employed right now.
And you have to also think about the investment in the future. That's the big thing, because we're all talking about dollars and cents. But then you have to look at it, okay, is DuBois County going to be a place to live in the future if we can't take care of law enforcement? I think that law enforcement is a grassroots thing. You got to have the gamut of that, it's people taking care of us.
I don't have it in front of me, I wish I would have brought it along, but I forgot of it. That paper that I have, that I gave you about what it would cost to have a deputy on this program for 10 years. And I can't remember what it was, I think somewhere like $70,000. But if you have that.
Come on, this,
Yeah, that's it. Okay. $91,000 that it would be if somebody went on there for the full 10 years. If the deputy went on this program for the full 10 years, it would cost the county in their premiums, so to speak, $91,000. That's if, again, worst case, they're on it the full 10 years. But if that same deputy went and worked for the state police, they're gonna make $170,000 more over a 20-year career. And that's the people that we don't wanna leave, because it's not simply to go out and hire somebody. We might find somebody to hire, but I stated this morning that we have an employee that we hired. We're full staffed, our deputies are full staffed, but yet we have one that just graduated from the academy and just got done at FTO. He's all by himself now, probably about a month in. So there's still things that we don't like for him to go to by himself that a seasoned officer could. We also have one that's being trained to go to the academy at the end of January. So I don't want to say that they're not helping us, but we're also short-staffed by being full-staffed. And we want to retain the people that we have, and we want to attract officers that maybe we don't have to train as much in the future. Because at 21, 22, 25, I think you have different longevity in your head. You're looking at more of the money, because that's when your family's young and all that. Once you turn 30, 33, 34, somewhere in that nature, or at least it did for me, and I know most people that I've talked to, things in your life change and you start looking at more in the future. And, talking to Jake, who works here in the county and looks at a 55-year-old that has insurance, they're a lot more employable. And I think it's something that the county can do to help us keep good officers, but yet it is a benefit. And I mean, the county has always said how good of our insurance is, how it is, and it is. It's an awesome insurance. But I guess, let's put that where people that put in a career can utilize it.
You want to-
I think, there's something that I've learned being on the council, that I take pride in is, the unintended consequences of your choices. I feel like, many times we make a decision that we felt like we corrected it, but then over here it upsets somebody else, and it just kind of feels like it's going down that road a little bit. But I'm not saying I'm against it, I'm just saying I think we'll have to fine tune what you're saying. I think the comparison, when we compare sheriff department versus Jasper City or state, I don't think that's a fair comparison at all. I think that's a total different avenue. I think we have to compare to other counties and their sheriff. That's, I'm not saying you're wrong, but that's my opinion. Because I think that's where it's really at. The city will always have more money. They're probably always going to pay higher. That's a standard that I don't think we're ever going to catch up. State, same way. I think we're always going to struggle, but I think we have to compare counties.
What we're after is just to plant the seed. We're not looking for something today, we're just gonna let you
Right.
know, so we
Sure.
can grow.
Like I said, I'm not against it. I'm really
You know,
not.
Get ahead of it, before, we're trying to catch up,
Right.
be ahead of it.
But I think that's what we try to do, Craig, is not, I'm not coming in here and asking us to be paid what Jasper and what the state is, because I know that probably can't happen.
Right.
What we did was we set out looking for something different. What's something different that, I mean, maybe it's not that $5,000 or $10,000 that we're behind, maybe it's something that you can look for in the future. And it's not, we're not in here asking to be paid the same as the other municipalities. It's something that's, but we don't want to lose those quality officers to those municipalities either.
As I read the ordinance, the thing that I guess, I don't know if I was surprised by it, I wasn't expecting to be in there, was once they reach 65, then the auditor's office would be required to pay
So,
the supplement, the Medicare supplement after retirement. I wasn't expecting that to be in there, and I don't know if we want to go down that road.
We can't, I mean, yeah. I learned some things this morning at the commissioners meeting that we're gonna tweak, and I guess that's, there's different things that we can tweak on it. I guess I just don't want to, I don't know, it's hard to say, but there's a lot involved in this, and if it's something that's just an overwhelmingly, no, we're not gonna even discuss it, then, I don't wanna keep putting forth effort into something that's fruitless.
I mean, that was one of my, as I read through the ordinance, that was one of my big,
That ordinance came straight from Clark County. And that's why it was tweaked very little from the Clark County ordinance. When we gave, actually Clark County had two of them. And I gave them both to Greg, and then he basically combined them two into the one.
I mean, I guess I was just under the impression that we would, fund their premiums up until age 65, and then after that, that was the end of
That was,
the-
I think, originally planned, or when we first talked, yes.
Because that's one of the parts where we have no control at all, and healthcare costs can go crazy, and we're sitting here with, can't do anything about it.
Right.
That's scary.
I mean, since we self-fund, I think that's the biggest part, the premiums, we can have some, we can wrap our arms around that some, but, say 5 guys are on it and 4 of them have a cancer diagnosis, since we're self-funded, that's a huge payout.
But like I said a minute ago, that can happen whether this goes through or not.
If they choose.
If they choose to stay on it, on the insurance, yeah.
Does something like this help burnout? You got a deputy that's burned out at 7 years. Do we want them another 13 so they can hang on to that?
I don't think this is gonna, honestly, I don't believe this. If somebody's burned out at 7 years, I don't think this is going to influence them to stay on for another 13 years. It's not like going to work 8 to 4 Monday through Friday. I mean, if they're burned out, they're gonna say, okay, I'm tired of working nights, I'm tired of working weekends, I'm tired of giving up my Christmas. If they're that burned out, they're gonna go find different employment.
And is that part of what's going on, why we have lost?
I think somewhat. You know, we've lost 3 deputies this year, one to retirement who's now still with the county at 911. Another one that, after 15 years, decided that he was gonna open up his own business and moved on. And then another one with about 10 years experience who decided that law enforcement was no longer for him. I don't think, on the 2, I don't think this would have made or break it. I don't think it would have. I think it was, they made that decision that he was done with law enforcement and he moved on.
If you take like Chief Deputy Honoris,
Mhm.
we got him from Huntingburg Police Department. So he came knowing he was making less money, but he came up through the ranks pretty quickly. And now is, you know, so that's one example of our pay is different, but as we already discussed this morning in the commissioners, that we do have some incrementals for those special instructors or all that kind of stuff. So we do have some incremental, somebody who wants to be a go-getter and
Right.
do some extra things. You can stay a regular deputy without any extra, you're paid, or you can apply yourself more. But he found a way to work himself up the ranks that maybe the local police departments don't have all those opportunities over.
Maybe. Are they open at different times? I mean, I think every police department is with the ranks, but I don't know if their pay structure is different than ours, and as far as instructors and all that, I don't know that.
One of the aspects that when we started talking about this, with me being in the private sector and doing a lot of hiring right now, I don't know if any of you try to hire anybody here lately. I've spent thousands upon thousands of dollars just to get people in the door and to replace people who I thought 5 years ago I could replace in a heartbeat. And this is just one of those things that, like we were saying, at 25, you don't care about this. At 35, you start to care about this if you're going to make this your career. And the big thing on this is yeah, worst case is they retire after 20 years at 55. That's not saying that's what's going to happen. You know, me personally, I can't retire at 55. I'd love to, but no matter what, if they offered this at my job, I still couldn't retire. I'd have to do something else. So it's a benefit that if they want to retire and find that second career, or you know that may offer insurance, may not, we'd like to keep them here in the area, because yeah, they may be retired from the department. That doesn't mean that we can't call them. Doesn't mean we can't stop in and talk to them and gain from their experience and their knowledge. You know, I come from a community that is dead, northern Indiana. You know, they didn't look into the future far enough, and we went from a town that had a population of about 2,000. Now there's about 300 people that live in that town, and it's just because they thought of the here and now more than anything else. So we were just we're looking for something to help maintain our department on the long term and make them want to stay. And we told them, we talked to the deputies regularly, what would you like? You know, when we, and a lot of them come back to the pay. Well, if we can't give you pay, what would you like? Different programs that we can offer like this would be a godsend to the department as far as that goes.
The only comments I want to make here, you know, I guess first of all, I want to thank law enforcement, Boyce County especially, for their dedication, professionalism, and everything they do to keep the county safe and the citizens safe. Because we heard it last meeting, I think, that there's not many counties we can just go out and walk at midnight and feel safe. So I mean, I want to thank you for that first. I just want to go through some of the stuff that I, since I've been on the council, what we've done for the sheriff's department, and that's, first we offer a pretty competitive compensation package. Our insurance, our health insurance, I don't think there's anyone that can match what we do here and for the cost, and the deductibles and all that. So, I mean, that's something, and the retirement, I know it's mandatory, but we do pay so many $100,000 a year into that program. So we are directly paying for the retirement of these officers. The next thing is, I think earlier last year, or middle of last year, we appropriated monies to have body cams for all of our officers. And we thought that was a great thing for the safety of the officers, for the safety of the county. So I think, that's something we want to look at, or, that we had looked at. And I think earlier this year, we sat down and reworked and reclassified all your officers in your department. And we gave them I think it was a 7% raise roughly. The rest of the county got 3%. So we're trying to do what we can to increase that pay. We're spending about $30 million on a security and corrections center out there. I know this doesn't affect an employee, but it does indirectly. We're going to have nicer offices. We're going to have more space. We're going to have safety or working conditions for the officers. And we also, this is the jailers, but the supervision of these inmates are going to be a lot better. So, we're going to improve the programming and working areas, the functioning of your offices. And I think we looked, again, you were in here last month and asked for social workers. If we get this grant, this is going to help your officers a lot. We need mental health personnel we're going to have. We're increasing the health department out there, or the medical area out at the new jail. So, and then going on, I think as a council, we have to look at what's going to be our future operating costs out there. We got more maintenance on a larger facility. We've got, the mechanical HVAC costs of operating. So, all these things are going to come in to what we're going to have to pay for here. So, I think we have to. I think we have to take this all into consideration. And I know it's not a cost today. If we sign this tonight, it's not a cost that's going to affect us today, but it will. It's the future councils here that have to sit here and pay for this. So, I think that's something we all, as a council, have to think about. So, I think my input personally is I think we need to go out and if you planted the seed, you go out, and I think you need to determine or come back in here with a spreadsheet of what all the other counties are paying their officers. Maybe we need to increase that pay. But I don't like the idea, again, personally, I don't like the idea of having a unfunded expense out there, or obligation out there that we're putting on a future council. So that said, anything else, or, you're not asking for any kind of vote tonight. I just wanted to tell you our point of view, or my point of view, because these are all facts. And the taxpayer ends up having to pay all this.
Mike, am I allowed to say something as a taxpayer?
Sure.
So, sorry.
State your name.
Mark Nowatarski, a Du Bois County resident, and I just want to say, I was at the commissioners meeting this morning, and I heard Sheriff Kleinhelter talk about this for the first time, and I heard Mr. Eckerly, explain what it's about, and it's the first time I've heard it, and I look at myself from the Du Bois County citizen, and I look at the importance of law enforcement, and just overall, what struck me was, and this happens a lot, but to me, our law enforcement is underpaid. And I think the merit board really looked at, okay, knowing where the pay levels are at, what innovative things we could approach and stuff that would help retain and just help out our law enforcement. I mean, as a taxpayer, I'd be willing to pay a little bit more on taxes to support these guys are on the line every single day, and they're facing danger every day. And you can talk about other county departments and stuff like that, and concern about, well, will this be reflected and for other departments? But the reality is, the way I look at it is, these guys are putting their life on the line almost every day and stuff. And for what they go through, what they get paid, having a benefit like they were talking about, to me, as a resident, makes all the sense in the world. So.
Okay, I appreciate your comments. Okay, anything else? Okay, well, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I hope you take our points into
Like
consideration.
I say, all we're doing is planting seeds.
Because I think we're, I
Sure.
listening to the commissioners meeting this morning too, we want to get the ideas out there, and I think we have to look at both sides.
Right.
So
Exactly.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
And one thing, Sandy, we want to make sure we got a thing in, make sure the minutes reflect that Alex is there. Or,
He is here, right?
Alex, you there?
No, he didn't come.
Okay, so we just. Okay, I think, next on the agenda, Mayor Vonderheide.
I think I've got you.
Technology whiz.
I'm trying here, hold on. Had it up earlier.
Well, you probably had an opportunity to see some of the slides along the way anyway, but so it'll be a little bit of a repeat of that. But Dean Von Wright here, Jasper, glad to be before you today. We've got a lot of the working group that has been working on the downtown revitalization here as well to answer any questions. But main thing is we've come a long way, from 2017 when we considered this project initially to go through, we tabled it because of lack of funding and diverted our attention toward the Tim Clark Cultural Center.
You want these down?
We have now brought this project back around with participation from not only the city of Jasper, but also members of this council and the engineering department. So we've come back to revisit this, and we took input from the citizens of Jasper on what they didn't like about our plans previously. We've been working with Rendell Ernstberger and Associates, who was the original architect of our downtown revitalization. And we're to the point now of entering into the second phase of engineering work to be done. And so we've got a design that has been agreed upon by the parties involved, and just kind of want to go over what that design is at this point in time. Initially there was a lot of conflict and debate on whether or not we wanted to use pavers all the way around the courthouse square because of the cost. And the compromise has been that we're using, I think it's 14 feet of concrete, maybe 12 or 14, I forgot what the dimension was. 14 feet of concrete sidewalks all the way around the square on the outside. The inside, where there is permeable pavers and parking, is for drainage. Okay, so that would be a permeable paver with a drainage system underneath so that it becomes a little bit, It's more effective for festival, so you're taking away the curbs, but you're using the contours of the land to be able to get the drainage into this permeable pavers. There is also around the perimeter, you see some greenery. So those planter boxes serve a couple of things. One, they become a resource or reservoir for the rainwater runoff. There'll be inlets that feed the water into it. And it breaks it up. You just don't want all concrete and brick downtown. I made the promise to the commissioners, we're not whitewashing the square. And that's not what our intention is, but it just helps demonstrate what is being done around there. You see around the outside corners, there are some gathering spots as well, some seating and shade structures that are there. The shade is an element of the downtown that's missing. And then you'll see trees dispersed. Those trees would be trees that have been identified as more vertical growing, not as broadly spreading as what we've seen in the past, so we don't have the issue with blocking signage, or not as big an issue with blocking signage there's going to be on the storefronts. The road is all asphalt, so it's not a paved road like we originally had in the initial concepts 4 years ago.
Let me scroll down.
And, well, let's stay right here right now, because I can see the crosswalks. You'll see 2 crosswalks at each of the intersections, 6th Street and Main Street, north and south. Those crosswalks, well, we thought we would trim it down to just 1 crosswalk. Seemed like that would be efficient. We found out as a recommendation from Renda Arnsberger that there have been some lawsuits against that because of the risk to public safety. If you have 2 in place and you reduce it to 1, you become liable to some of the risks that are out there. So we have 2 at each one of those intersections based on their recommendation. And you also see that as you approach the square, it is a narrowing of the streetway, and it is for a traffic calming, because we're anticipated a lot of pedestrian traffic in the downtown area, that we want to reduce the speeds of automobiles going around the square. We also have mapped this out to where the snorkel truck can make it around the square, and according to the analysis that's been conducted, you can run a 53-foot trailer around the square as well, tractor trailer. That's not what we want to do. We want to divert tractor trailers to other routes that would make it a little bit more effective and more safe on the square. Let's go to the next slides. An overhead view of what I was just talking about. We are keeping the angled parking and the straight-in parking as they exist today, because that seems to work very well as people enter into the square and get back out safely. So we didn't want to make any changes to that. We will be losing about 2 parking spaces at each intersection because of the state requirement that says you can't park a car so close to a crosswalk. And so by meeting the state requirements, we are redoing the square. We have to comply with that. We will lose approximately, I think it's 8 parking spaces around that. We plan on gaining a couple on, on 6th Street on the west side of the square. There is no parking over there now, and there's a couple parallel spots that will be. Then, I don't know, Renee, is that the best picture that we have of the handicap access, the ADA access? the courthouse. So it'll be right there. So initially, when we were looking at this, the handicap access, the ADA access to the courthouse has been designed so that it will be a ramp, two swings in it. And it will be built so that as you look at it from the front side, it'll use the same type of stone veneer. So if you're coming up 6th Street, going to the west, you see that, you may not even tell there's a ramp or structure there. It should blend in with the courthouse very well. So that's the intent of what they're doing there. They are pulling the corners of the interior of the courthouse, will be pulled out. I think it's a 7-foot,
At the most.
at the most 8 foot. So from where it is now, the squircle will become more of a square. Okay? So we're not quite a circle, we're not quite a square, I call it a squircle. We'll push it out to where we'll have more of a corner, but it will be radius there. Again, from a traffic calming standpoint and just from an aesthetic view of the square. The width of the travel lanes is 24 feet from the parking areas across to the inside part of the courthouse square. On the interior, I should say the interior of the courthouse square, but on the courthouse square that we're across from right now, the exterior perimeter has a paver and it has a sidewalk all the way around. That paver also has a rumble strip that will go around it, as just a reminder of where you are if you get too close to the inside. It's something that the architect has used in other projects across the state. Let's go to the next slide. The stone, this is a good example. The second slide, or second picture from the top right, is an example of that rumble strip that's in there. And so that gives them a little texture, but otherwise it is a curbless environment, so you just get the contours. The permeable paver parking will be a dark paver, and they want to use a dark paver because it will, you won't see the stains from automobiles that might be leaking, and you're going to have that. So you can park around. There'll be distributed benches, bicycle stands, and you'll see the contrast between the light and the dark all the way around. Let's go to the next one. The lighting in the alleys and in some of the corner nodes, plan on using this catenary string lights. Okay, I think I used to call them Edison lights or something, but it's seems to be a popular way to go to provide lighting for those areas. And we intend to have water bollards on at least opposite corners is what I understand, so that we'll be able to hook up the hoses in the event of festivals and we need to wash out things. Also, we'll have the at least considering a dog bowl, water fill station, and then of course dog waste collection around the school. Gives you some examples of what some of the seating might be and umbrellas in the corner nodes. This is some examples of what some of the greenery may look like, and they're looking for Indiana plants, the natural plants of Indiana. So it's not something that's going to be invasive.
That's a good example of the planters, the curbs on the planter boxes, which will also offer a safety feature in that cars can't run up onto the sidewalks.
That's true. That was one of the concerns people had, well, what's gonna stop a car from running on into the store? And so this will serve as that. And you see on the side also where it will absorb, if there's a real heavy rain, the rain will come into that side area of that. And then they've got various options here in the trees. And they've got some hybrid trees that they feel very comfortable with, that don't grow too big. You know, they stay within a decent size so it doesn't become an issue. Birds become an issue, lots of things become an issue, but trees, you know, we need to have some greenery around downtown, trees, that green space. Well, quite a bit, providing shade as well.
We're also including an irrigation system.
Yeah, if you notice the plants that die around Main Street and Square, there are plants that die every year. It's because we don't get around to watering often enough. And if you put it in the hands of the store owners, they're busy running their stores. They forget about that. At the end of the day, they're gone. So, you know, for the right reasons, they do their thing. It's important to have a watering system for any kind of planting beds. And so we're including that as well. Let's go to the next one. Here you can see where that ramp is, the ADA accessible ramp on the right side facing. And how the blending of the asphalt, the permeable pavers, and the concrete comes into play. I think it's going to be a very attractive area with this. Anything else on this slide that you're missing? Okay, let's go to the next. There will be a change in the way our flagpoles are located in front of City Hall. We've got them in a corner. If the corner node opens up to something like this, we're going to move the flags to more centrally be positioned in front of City Hall. It's kind of that, maybe not quite down as low as you'll be able to get a good view. But, you know, it's going to be hard to see a difference in the courthouse from high level. Good luck. And you know, this whole thing, this isn't just about making it look good. The main reason we're doing this, I'm gonna go back to the core of it, is we've got old infrastructure. The water lines, they're 100 years old. We had one break 2 weeks before Strassenfest this year. You know, and that was a concern, because when it breaks one area, when you replace that, it's gonna put pressure somewhere else. And just like we're finding across the city, when we have these old water lines that instead of a 6-inch line, they're about a 2.5-inch line now. Been in long enough. And that's what we've got around here. We started just the last week or so cutting off one of the water line loops so that it doesn't come around the square. We saw some work out there today, this past week, on East 6th Street. Yeah, on East 6th Street. And that's what they're doing, is trying to get those loops to where we've got them right place so we can go in here and do this infrastructure right. But we have stormwater and water line replacements that have to be done. Sewers will be checked as well. And we're going to do that before we ever put any service in. Again, views approaching the courthouse. And what it might look like as you're walking around with the benches scattered throughout. We want to make it an inviting environment, someplace where people will want to come. Might actually have a fire pit located in one of the modules. Our nodes downtown. And then there's also some combination wood platform seating, because we're wood capital of the world. We want to use wood, incorporate wood wherever we can. And there's a lot of different configurations it could end up being.
Durable wood.
Durable wood, signature. Yeah, something that's low maintenance. And, again, umbrellas.
So the idea is that we will have these we're calling them the corner nodes, that will be gathering places, and we'd like to get local companies to assist and sponsor the corner nodes.
Some more examples of what the shade structures might look like. And alleyways, we don't know what the alleyways are gonna look like at this point in time, but they will be part of the scope of the work to be done. We did keep the scope of work, courthouse square, and one block each direction. North, south, east, and west. We can go any farther than that. Our intention is to have a further phases. We'll complete Main Street for sure, from about 2nd or 3rd Street all the way up to 9th. So there'll be some consistency in that eventually. That's not in this first phase. We scoped this first phase to something we felt like we could be able to fund, with partnerships. We've applied as part of the Ready grants for this. We've applied. We had applied in the past for the community crossings grants years ago. We did not apply for that this time. And there's reasons behind it is because of the cost it drives when you have to meet the
So that
state. On
again,
historical districts, state requirements on historical districts, when you renovate them, you go into that, you have to get into a lot of detail and a lot of cost. The cost is a little bit more than what we really saw as the value of what we're trying to do is fix the infrastructure first and foremost.
Plus the timing, it was gonna be a significant increase in the amount of time it would take for us to get approvals and just.
We've got some pretty good momentum going on in the downtown here in the county seat. We rolled out a facade renovation program this year. The facade renovation is a 50% grant on the facade work you can do, up to $10,000. We did 5 of those this year. And you see some of the work being done, it's really spruced it up. And we got others now getting in line for next year. So we're getting the investments now into the buildings to where we think it's really gonna make a difference. And it's time we invest in our infrastructure, in our street. Jeff's been on me, Jeff Tice has been on me since I got, even before I became mayor, is when I was city council, about wanting to repave Main Street. He's been holding off because he knew we had to go in and tear things up, so we want to get in there and tear it up and fix it. The idea is that we would have the engineering work done end of the year, January-ish, and we would go out for RFPs and award the contracts in March, I think it was, the timeline. So once the contracts are awarded, then we're looking at a 15 to 18 month schedule to complete. So there will be a disruption out here for a little over a year. But we will, as part of the requirement, we'll have accessibility to the downtown area for pedestrians. There will be limited accessibility for any kind of trucks or automobiles. And we will not set that. That will be set by the contractor, because that will drive out the pricing. So we've been told to leave that in the contractor's hands to be the most flexible. we know what we want to do, so they'll be able to, whether they do it by quadrant, whether they shut down a half, or the whole thing at once, they'll know what the expectations are.
But we'll work closely, very closely with them once a contractor is selected.
Because I know we chatted that voting will be very important.
Voting is extremely important. So having access. So we're at the point now, that's where we are. And, appreciate the input we've had and the involvement we've had at this point. We're trying to put the finishing touches on it before we can do anything. We've got to have all our funding in place. Of course, we're requesting some assistance from the county on that. We know it's a big undergoing. We can't do it by ourselves as a city. We need the county to be part of it. And as part of the scope, I think refreshing our county seat, doing this for the county courthouse is a real plus. So,
Would the utilities be part of the contract, or are you gonna do those directly with your utilities?
well, we'll do both. We're gonna work some utilities through our utility budgets. I think that's our plan, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So some of it's gonna be done by us, some of it will contract out because we don't have the capacity, or they'll do a better, quicker job, and we've got other things we're doing.
Yeah, we're trying to get the water lines done before the rest of the construction starts. We've already been working on freeing up some of the service lines on the east side of the square, so that the main line will just, right now it goes on both sides, but we're gonna have the main line just go on the west side. Kind of minimize the impact and kind of keep it contained a little bit more, easier to work on.
So besides that, is it the storm sewers and the sanitary sewers that are gonna be replaced?
Storm sewers for sure. Because we couldn't tell, that's why Bud's getting the water lines in first. We'll put the storm sewers in, and at least we know that they won't run a storm sewer through a water line.
Yeah, which we have in some places.
We do have water lines in the storm sewers in some places.
Sanitary sewer, there's really only your line that goes to the northwest, and that has been updated fairly recently. It's all plastic, so it's not 100 years old like the rest of it is. But, and the gas line also to the courthouse goes in that northwest direction. Really, that's the only side of electric for the lighting and other things. That'd be about it.
So the rest of them are serviced out of the back of the rear buildings also?
Say that again, Mike.
Most all the other buildings around there are serviced out of the back or the rear portion of the building?
For sewer, yes, and gas. Some of the gas is in the alley, but it's all in there, or outside the main square.
And we'll have to tackle that as we go down Main Street, or up Main Street as well, right? We'll have to address that. That's a next phase.
We did meet with Strauss and Best people
Yeah.
and made sure that we understand their needs and from a space and utility and all of those things.
You, I thought during the commissioners meeting that you were gonna maybe work on with our actual costs or, with our ADA ramp and.
Yeah, we haven't received anything back yet.
Okay, so
We did
you are
request that.
Yeah, it's been requested.
trying to get that for us.
And I'd hope you consider to go over and above just that, because, I know this is county seat, and we're doing as much as we can to spruce it up, not just doing the basics. We want to put it back in really good shape.
Any questions, Doug or Sonia?
I'm concerned about the loss of parking spaces
Yeah, it's state regulated. Yeah.
because we're messing with what we have now. Any solutions to this? You guys thought about, because we want people to come downtown, shop and hang out, and there's no parking,
that's gonna be a hindrance also.
There's, there's a lot of conflicting information out there. And a recent study that was done said we have plenty of it. Now, it just depends, and that's the situation. If you want to park right in front of the store you want to go to and somebody else is there, you're gonna have to park somewhere else. But when you think about it, we're willing to walk from one end of Walmart parking area into Walmart, and it's farther than 2.5 blocks here. Sometimes if we walk 2 blocks, there's plenty of parking. But we don't like that. And as a society, or as DuBois County, we've been spoiled. We get a chance to do that. When you go into the city, you don't get a chance to do that. When you go somewhere else, you don't get a chance to do that. We want people to be able to shop downtown. And that may mean that employees and owners have to park somewhere else, maybe that 2.5 blocks, or 3 blocks away.
I just wanted to say thank you for moving away from the papers everywhere idea. And I'm sure Becky and whoever else was on the committee voiced my opinion multiple times, but, I was confined to a wheelchair for 3 months and my daughter has a disability, and I'm telling you, papers anywhere, no matter how smooth they are, is extraordinarily uncomfortable, no matter how far you have to go. So I'm really thankful that you moved away from papers everywhere to making sure that it was concreted on the walkways.
That was probably the #1 feedback that we received from the entire community.
Yeah.
Because you can be ADA compliant with papers, but it's not ADA friendly at all.
I've heard that. We did hear that.
How are the handicap parking spots around? Because most people, if they're coming in the courthouse, are coming in the east side. So around the annex, we have 3 on the side here and 3 in the front. Do you know where, are those
Okay, so
handicap spots marked? Do you know where they will be? So people,
I don't know exactly which ones they are, but you brought up something else I need to make you aware of. On the inside today, around this courthouse, you have police will park there, and they go run up to the court. That's a problem. That's a problem today. And so when this is completed, the intent is to designate some parking spots, 2 or 3 spots. We worked with the sheriff's department, with city police, what we would do to address that. And so the idea is to have some designated parking spaces for them so they can run up, probably on the side of the annex here. So they can run up, park there, and then go into the courthouse.
So you'll still have the 3 that are identified
Yeah,
here,
those will still be there.
and we'll designate, the idea was to designate these, or some of these, and then also the 2 that are being added on the west side for law enforcement.
And they were good with that.
But to answer your question, ADA parking spaces, I presume there's a requirement and we would meet that requirement and.
I was just saying, because if we have the ramp on there.
Right.
And people in wheelchairs gonna use it, where are they gonna park? Are they gonna park 2 blocks away to,
Oh, no, no.
So,
No, I think you can actually see where they've got some striped off there. I didn't specifically look at that.
I just wanna make sure we have those in the places where it's gonna be most convenient for them to use the ramp and get into the courthouse.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know, Chad, do you remember? So you probably comment on more.
Well, I believe what they've done is they've incorporated at least 1 spot into each corner adjacent to the corner nodes. If you look at right adjacent to the corner nodes, there's a hatched area next to that perpendicular parking space.
Oh.
I believe that is where they've incorporated the.
Are you talking about these?
No.
No. The perpendicular. Right. Perpendicular.
Oh.
Yeah, right in front of that.
Right
Yeah,
there.
right in front of the ash tree.
In front of the
And right
asphalt, in
here.
front of the city office.
Right here,
Yeah.
and right here.
And the intent also is that the majority of these parking spaces will be inherently accessible. Maybe not have the loading area, but they will be grading wise 2% or in those cases. Now, I think on the northwest corner, I think they are looking at, it will be a little steeper up there, but much less than what it is currently. So, and then, and then incorporation with the 2 spots that the 2 or 3 spots that are actually within the courthouse boundary. That's their intent on providing assessment.
To your point, Sonia, parking is always a subject. And, you know, it's a matter of convenience at the time of day when you want to be where you want to be. And
You know,
so-
but I've dealt with I work a block off the square, as you know, and I've dealt with a lot of elderly clients. And I will walk the block for them to meet them in a car because there's no parking for them. Not just them, but anyone, there's just no parking, not enough parking.
Again, you can take a snapshot in time, anytime. It's unfortunate that, you know, we have people that park there all day long to work, which they should be.
How about, FedEx, UPS, you know, when they make their deliveries, they usually do the same thing as the law enforcement. They,
Won't be able to go on the inside. There should be enough room on the outside to be able to park a little bit.
There is.
Short-term delivery.
So as the mayor said earlier, the driving space or the asphalt space is either 24 or 26 feet wide, two
2 lanes.
2 lanes wide. So if a truck were to pull up and park right just to run in and drop something off, that should not stop people from going around, continuing around.
And with the corner nodes there, that might serve as the best place for them to pull up to. So they don't block somebody in.
it seems concerning it seems tight. First of all, the design is obviously fantastic. Looks nice. Looks great. Looks up to date. I think it looks tight on the corners. You know, I know you guys check the fire trucks, right? It seems like all they do is get larger. The fire trucks.
We took our ladder truck.
Yeah. And, you know, I know that, well, I don't know the procedure for Jasper, but if there's a first responder call, the ambulance is coming from other than Memorial, maybe it's coming from Lunenburg, then you bring in, 10, 12, 15 guys. I'm sure the parking is gonna be pretty tight then, because, let's say it's at the courthouse, or it's at one of the stores for a first responder call. Granted, that's a moment in time, and everybody has to go with it, but
I mean, if that happens and there are 15 first responders parked anywhere on there, it's gonna be.
yeah, it's gonna stop traffic.
Yeah, but I think it would today. I mean,
Correct.
I don't know that we can plan
Mhm.
for that.
You know, I mean, is it a perfect thing? Probably
I
not,
never is, but
you know.
I
But
think
it's a good compromise on the concerns that were brought up by the public and by those involved, the partnerships.
So, delivery trucks then to the stores, that'll be worked out then? Bigger trucks come
during the project or after it's done.
after it's, well, during or after, but it'll be worked out. If you are keeping them from the square, then there'll have to be definite,
Are we talking about semis?
yes.
Okay.
Semis should not be directed around the square.
Right, so you're
Currently.
working it out with the store owners of how they get their deliveries then.
Right, currently, they're not supposed to come onto the square. They're supposed to use the
The other
back
streets.
entrances back and the other
Right, so
streets.
GPS will still take them there.
Right, that's what we gotta get changed.
Yeah.
is
Okay.
GPS.
Yes.
Because GPS is our biggest culprit right now. The route, somebody that's not familiar with the town, if you're a driver from town, you know better.
Yeah, or you've been here once or twice, and maybe done it once, like,
Right.
yeah, that's not right.
We have,
And that's another thing, I mean, truthfully, the idea is that, before you ever get onto the square, if you're a truck, you can see, this is
I'm not supposed to be.
someplace I'm not supposed to be.
Yeah, we probably should put signage up that says no trucks.
So are the store owners, are they gonna be responsible for the planters in front of their stores, or is that city's gonna take care of that?
There will be an assigned responsibility. And whether it's the city, city of Jasper or one of the groups from the area, it could be Heart of Jasper, it could be a lot of things. But, someone will be assigned.
That's another reason why we are investing in the, watering system.
Right, I didn't know, like, weed cleanup, plants die.
Right now,
Right.
Heart of Jasper's doing that down there. We do the cleanup and the weeds. We didn't have that before. I couldn't believe how many times I was called in because of flowers dying or weeds or something like that. And, well, who's responsible? There's no one responsible. So, we love to plant things, but we got to.
Yes.
And it's kind of a similar situation we had down at the Schaefer barn and the garden down there. Thankfully, the Daughters of American Revolution stepped up and they took responsibility and are going to help maintain that forest. They did it in Ferdinand and Holland, maybe, I'm not sure where else. But we really appreciate that those volunteer organizations stepped up with that responsibility. If you want a beautiful downtown, it takes work. It doesn't come free.
And the fire pit, is that a concern at all, like it being used improperly at nighttime, or?
So we haven't decided yet I mean, that's
It's an
an idea,
Okay.
but there are a number of different ways that it can be handled. Like put it on a timer or,
Short term.
yeah. So, that's something to be worked out. I did want to mention though, we're trying obviously to make it more friendly, and an amenity for the entire community. So a couple of the things that we're also including are Wi-Fi on the courthouse or on the square, as well as a sound system.
Which there's one out there today that doesn't work really well. It'll be updated.
Any other questions, Mayor?
There's a lot of things I like about this, like you said, the pavers, making things smooth so people don't trip or anything like that. I know I'm clumsy as all get out, so that's nice. Curbless sidewalks, that's something, and also the irrigation or the water system to help with that. I'm still also kind of concerned about the parking, losing 8, 10, 11 different parking spaces around the square, because a lot of people have already talked to me about the concern they have already throughout the day and throughout the week about not having, their customers being able to
The downtown merchants have been part of it.
What's that?
The downtown merchants have been part of the discussions. They've been involved in this as well. It's the county.
I think it's important to remember, and I know it's been said, but the way the parking is designed, we can't avoid losing those spaces unless we reconfigure the way the parking is designed. So if we were to take the angled parking away and so that you had to drive straight into the space, we could probably get at least one more, I think. But that was shot down immediately because nobody wants to have to pull in straight on those, or I don't know how,
The inside.
on those. So, those were the options. Go with the angled parking and lose extra spaces, or, change the parking layout. And this was, the favorite option. So we did look, I just, we tried to maximize parking.
And the state regulations are just that, it's the way they regulate it. And so you gotta stay so many feet away from the crosswalk. It's-
20 to be
Is there-
exact.
Is there any thought in the future of maybe having a parking garage off one of the sides, like over here by, the city parking lot over there, making that parking garage or
I mean, that's
multi-level
been-
thing
It's been
to
talked
add
about,
some sort of
it's been talked
parking.
about, but again, we just, when was it, just a couple of years ago, we had somebody look at our parking and they said we were at 60% capacity. There are those moments, but, it's not consistently that way. There's usually parking around the square. When it's court day, not. Was it Thursday afternoons, I think it is, it gets really hectic down here.
The Saturday night, the Astor performance, it was kind of fun to see it all just parked all the way up to, going up Main Street.
It used to be full back in the day,
Just a double park.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't know if you remember, but when we first started this project 5 years ago, the consulting firm that's working with us took the footprint of Walmart and laid it on Main Street. And it went from the square down to the Riverwalk. I mean, basically, it's that far of a distance. So, as the mayor said earlier, people are used to walking that. They don't even think twice about walking from one end of Walmart to the other. But here, just because of the visual effect of thinking that it's so much further when it's not. So we're trying to get people used to the idea of, parking where you have to park, but walk past several stores rather than parking, walking in, walking out, get back in your car and leave.
Well, I think, I appreciate you allowing us to present this, see where we were, and answer any questions you have. If you have any questions after the meeting, don't hesitate to either shoot them at us or Mike and Becky or Bob regularly as well as Brent, so.
I do have one more question. So, will there be no police parking along the courthouse anymore at all? No,
Once this is done,
once they're done, they'll be parking on the other side
they'll be parking in those parking spots
in
designated.
front of this building. And then they'll be taking, like, when they have people for court, they'll be taking them up the front steps or walking them around the back of the building. Yeah.
It's still gonna stay
These
the
three.
same.
They still
It's
got
still
those
gonna,
three
but that's
spots.
still gonna
Those
stay
three
the same.
spots are
Those
gonna
are gonna stay,
and
okay,
then also in the back,
Okay.
back here.
They'll stay the same.
And we will send you those cost estimates as soon as we get them.
Yeah, if you would, I appreciate it as well. Well, I appreciate you coming in and explaining it. It's really, looks good here. Sometimes
Well, it's,
unless anybody else has got anything.
Three on the other side.
it's taking everybody, I think you get a better solution when you have different perspectives, and I think, we've been open to that. I think we've got a pretty good plan going forward. So thank you,
All right, thanks a lot.
and thank you for the technology.
Next you want is this Asher's project.
Christine, are you ready?
Sure.
Sorry, we're running a little late
That's
here.
okay. I work remotely today, so.
Blame Sandy.
What?
I said, we'll blame Sandy for being
He told me 20 minutes.
I don't know, what time is it? Oh, okay. Good afternoon.
why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay, my name is Christine Pryor, I'm the president of the DuBois County Park Board. And as you all know, we've been going through a park design for the last few years. We did issue a request for bids to do phase one, and they came in substantially higher than what we had anticipated. Part of that is because of the supply chain mess ups now and just increased cost in construction. We did redesign some of it. For example, one of the things that we looked at was our infrastructure. We didn't realize how much infrastructure we actually had out of the park and needed to put in at the park. And so one of the things we did to try to lower that cost is there is a water line that comes in for the 4-H that they use, and it goes right across our property, which a lot of people don't realize that 4-H fairgrounds and the DuBois County Park are separate. So it goes across our property, and our architect, when he was designing the water system to go to the restroom, he's coming in one way, and he says, but 4-H has a line right there, just right next to where we need to go. And instead of doing 150 linear feet of pipe, we can do 15 feet of linear pipe. So, and the way we work it right now with 4-H Council is they pay the utilities and we pay staff and a few other things. And then at the end of the year, we work it out as to whose cost was whose. And it's like, why would we put in 150 linear feet when that line already goes across our property and we already share utilities with 4-H? So that helped us cut down some pricing there. So just little tweaks that we did so that the original 1.15 million is now down to probably 850 to 900,000. We had $250,000 match with a $250,000 grant. That's what the project was supposed to be designed to, for a $500,000 project. We kind of expected it to go a little bit over. We just didn't expect it to go that much over. So a few weeks ago, I had gone to the county commissioners. They said that they would appoint money from the American Rescue Plan, and we were good to go. We've already done the first publication for our bid. And then it comes down that, well, maybe we can't use American Rescue Plan monies. We don't want to put the county at risk in any way. So we understand that the commissioners kind of had to rescind that. But if we do not have the $350,000 from the county, we will probably have to go back to the drawing boards completely. And what we considered phase one, which would have been the restrooms and the camping, which was the most important part of what we had people telling us they wanted. If we have to give that $350,000 up, we can't do the plan as we submitted it for the grant. And that means we could probably only do one of those things on our own. So what we consider phase one will probably not be done. We'll have to, even take phase one and divide it into 3 different phases. And what we hope to get accomplished in 2023 probably won't be done until 2028 because we just don't have the money to do that. For the past few years, I've been on the board since 2017. Typically what the county does is they appropriate $50,000 a year for us to do capital improvements. We've been saving that $50,000 and that's what we were going to use as match. And like I said, we had a little extra so that we could do the project. But one of the things to consider is your return on investment. From our campsites, we receive about $50,000 a year. And it's not like that $50,000 is then matched with the $50,000 you give us so that we can save that. That $50,000 goes back into your general fund. So we're basically giving you back what you've invested in us. And with these new campsites, we feel like we can raise probably another $15,000 to $20,000 a year. So there is a return on investment cash-wise and also quality of life for the residents of Du Bois County. Primarily, the residents of Du Bois County are the people that use the campgrounds. 90% of our campers are from the county. They like to go out there, spend a couple of weeks out there. They go to work during the day, they come out and camp at night. So it's not like we're doing something that's not going to be used by Du Bois County residents. The other thing that I've noted is when I started on the park, we had about 2,900 camping nights. That means that somebody rented a campsite for a night. So we have about 2,900 a year. We're up to over 3,400 now. So in those 5 years, we grew 500 camp nights. And that doesn't mean there's 3,400 people that are out there because they have their families and all of that. So there's probably 7,000 to 10,000 people out there every summer camping. So we want to be able to provide that for our residents. And we also want to look at that quality of life, because if we know that we have 3,400 to 3,500 now, and then we add some campsites, we know we're going to add additional people out there, and that is going to be very advantageous to us as we are looking to attract talent back to this area. That is the number one thing now. You know, I hear in some of the newsreels and stuff, oh, we want to create jobs. And it's like, yeah, that's great. But if you don't have anybody to work at those jobs, what are you going to do? So we need to attract talent back to this area. We need to retain the talent that we have. And providing them things to do when they're not at work is one of the most important things that we can do to attract and retain that talent. And we feel that when we designed our park, we really looked at that, because we looked at the people who were going to stay overnight for 2 weeks. But we also want to look at those things that day travelers can stop and do something. You know, if you're working and you're thinking, I've got to take a break, I'm going to go out to the park, I'm going to walk the trails. There's different kinds of trails. I'm just going to sit and, you know, look at the lake or walk around the lake or just enjoy the fact that Du Bois County, as Mayor Vonderheit said, you know, it's the wood capital. We have great woods out there. I guess we'll see if the truck can make the round. But, you know, we have land out there that is just forest land. And we want to be able to put trails through that so people can walk through it. And I'm very fortunate that my family still owns the farm that we owned 175 years ago. And bringing my kids back from Ohio State to walk out there, and them bringing their significant others. I have nieces and nephews all across the United States. I say from Sarasota to Seattle. My nieces and nephews are scattered. But the farm is the place that we can come and go and walk through the woods and feel that Du Bois County heritage. So I just want to ask that if the county is unable to do the American Rescue Plan of $350,000, that you guys will consider the $350,000 from the edit funds. Questions?
Before we take questions, what I'd like, you know, spoken with Lisa about maybe the history of what the county, you know, under my memory, you know, what I remember, but she had given me a little.
Yeah, Lisa
history.
has 40 years of experience. So
You know, I think it would be good for the council to hear this a little bit here.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Gelhausen with Indiana 15 Regional Planning Commission. And I've worked with Du Bois County for numerous decades, doing park and recreation planning. Every 5 years, I have to applaud the county for all the park boards that go through this process, set priorities, and helps them focus on their goals and get it done. And I'm just going to take you back 5 years to the 2016 to 2021 park plan. The new campsites and trails were in that plan. They were in the previous plan. And so in 2018, well, in January of 2018, Park Board and Indiana 15 got together and they decided we want to go in 2018 with an application.
And so in June, on June 1st, we submitted an application to DNR for land and water conservation, asked for $250,000. And they gave us state approval in September of 2018. So then, once we had state approval, then we knew, okay, then we need to work on the environmental review, which we did. And then a couple things popped up. One was the Division of Historic Preservation, the State Historic Preservation Officer said, we want you to do an archaeological reconnaissance because there's a lot of ground out there that hasn't been touched. So we had to hire a archaeologist come in and do some shovel probing. Luckily, they didn't find anything, but we still had to do the study, which took time. Then the U.S. Fish and Wildlife said there's some wetlands out there. We want you, the park board, to do a wetland delineation survey. So that pretty much took up 2019 to get those studies done and clear the environmental.
And when we did that for the entire park, so that the next time we're doing a project, we don't have to back up and do it again. So we took, 2018 and 2019, we really looked at what do we need to be ready to do projects. So we did the plan, we did the archaeological reconnaissance, and the environmental. So,
and those are two documents, as Christine said, you want to hang on to because then you don't have to have that expenditure down the road. But then in 2020, early 2020, then they gave us federal approval. And so that was a big step. We knew the money was going to come, the $250,000. And then part of the grant was to make sure that the property was in perpetuity park and recreation. So then the park board had to get a boundary survey done of what was park property, what was 4-H, and get it surveyed, and then attach it to the deed with a clause or a covenant on it that says this ground is perpetuity park and recreation. So that was accomplished in 2020, and the deed was encumbered in 21, working with the surveyor and your county attorney. And then in 2021, as you're fully aware, that it was bid for the first time, which they came in high. And the park board made efforts to meet with the community foundation, like how can we long-term try to raise money to, keep even not only this project, but future ones. So that was a positive partnership. And then, including myself, we thought we could use ARPA money for this program because it said you could use it for outdoor recreation. And then it said outdoor recreation for disadvantaged areas, wasn't in a gray area. But then we started reading into it and had different conferences that I went to. I kept asking about this project. Can we? And I got, well, you're kind of in a gray area. It's not 100% clear. You might be taking some risk. And then there's other people that say, well, they're going to loosen those rules on ARPA, which may come down the road. And at this point in time, we really don't know. And there is some risk to using ARPA money. So, and I know the county's adverse to risk, and I agree, that's great. And so the commissioners then said, we don't want that risk. And as Sandy as auditor, she runs a tight ship, and she doesn't want to have to go back and correct something maybe that we shouldn't have done, and who knows how big that risk is. It's hard to say. So the ARPA money, it's just not clear whether we can or cannot use that at this point in time. And so
we did have Baker Tilly advise us not to use it, and Barnes and Thornburg. So we've had two opinions not to take that risk.
So that brings us to the question tonight is, this project's been going on for a number of years. We're at this point where the bids on December 2nd will be opened, and we're at a critical point in the agenda that this will move us forward if the council would be
approving of spending the $350,000 of added money towards this. It's just been, many steps in the making, and hopeful that you can see that there's been a lot of effort put forth, and
One of the other things that I see is, as this has been going on, we've had a lot of good media coverage. And I've had people approach me and say, we want to give to the park. And, I'm very appreciative of that. And I've provided some deposits to Sandy. But those deposits are coming in at, around $1,000 or something like that. But I need to find 350 people to do that. And we don't really have that kind of time, because this grant, we have to be done with everything by June of 2023. So we do plan on, I've talked to the Community Foundation, they're gonna come in January, and we're gonna talk to them about how is it that we can fundraise for some of those capital improvements that come after this phase one. And we feel like if the county invests in this phase one, that will show the rest of the individuals that the county does support this project, and then they're going to be more willing to give. Because I truly believe that if the county says, oh, we don't want to do that, then there's gonna be a lot of people that are gonna say, oh, well, the county's not for this, maybe we shouldn't invest in this either then. But by giving us the support of this $350,000, I feel like the other people are gonna say, you know what, the county really believes in this. We believe in it too. So for those next phases, we're willing to invest. And then we don't have to come to you in a couple more years and say, okay, we're on phase 2 now, we need 350,000 more. We do plan on doing that fundraising. The Community Foundation is gonna come in January. I asked them to let us get through the bid process before we started talking, okay, how do we fundraise? Because we know that we don't have the time for that June 2023 to fundraise now, because Sandy's gotta have the money in the bank when we start answering those contracts. Because I can't have the county agree to go into a contract with a contractor when we only have $650,000 of maybe the $900,000 that we need.
And the way the bid specifications and plans have been developed, there are many alternates in there that can come out. So
I was wondering, because with the bids, we say yes, and then the bids come in again way over, what are you going to cut out there?
We have certain things we can cut out, but we can't cut, we have to do camping, restrooms, and trails, because that's what we told the Department of Natural Resources we would do. So all 3 of those elements have to be in there, and they have to be compliant with what the Department of Natural Resources requires. For example, I can't do a 5-foot trail, 5-foot wide trail, when they're telling us to be compliant, we need a 10-foot trail, 10-foot wide.
And they did review all the plans and specs, mostly for ADA compliance, and those have been approved at DNR, so it's ready to go to bid with your blessing of the additional funds. It's ready to accept the bids.
I think one other thing, Lisa, I don't know if you remember this, but when, I was trying to look back on when the county actually put money into this, and the only thing I could really find is when I think they bought 40 acres, the last 40 acres roughly.
Taking you back to the early 90s is when they did get a land and water conservation fund on a 50-acre tract that the park board bought. And then that was all land and water, and that was money they saved through the years to match it. And while they've saved also through the years to match it, it's just not gonna do the whole project right at this point in time.
I think they had little paving projects, didn't they?
I think
Making different roads or whatever.
We had Amy's was the first land and water to build the entrance road and the paving the loop around the parking, that was Land and Water number 1. Land and Water number 2 was, to buy property. Land and Water number 3 was the trail. This is like Land and Water number 4. So you got, the park boards worked the grants as well as they can. And we are,
Yeah, and the other thing is too, the county park board takes on the responsibility of doing all of the park plans for all of the municipalities in the city or in the county. So without that park plan, if they don't have a 5-year park plan, they cannot go for grants. And so what we do is we hire Indiana 15 to do a countywide park plan so that Huntingburg, Ferdinand, Jasper, they all come in and they tell how they want to improve their parks, and that allows them then to, submit for grant applications on their own, and we cover the cost of that. We oversee that so that it gets done every 5 years. And Indiana 15's in the midst of doing theirs, doing it right now.
we're doing the 2022 to 2027. But not only the Du Bois County Park, but we've seen the Old Town Lake at Ferdinand. That was a Land and Water. The Huntingburg, the North Side Park is a Land and Water going on now. The parklands had Land and Water on it. The Huntingburg Pool had Land and Water on it. It's because these park boards in this county are doing that planning and focusing. The plan really is working. The plan.
So Mike, what you're saying is that the county hasn't subsidized any of the projects out there except for maybe the purchase of the original property.
That's kind of what I was getting at, because we really haven't.
The last
county-
major project was 30 years ago.
Well, they bought the land.
Right.
Yeah.
That wasn't 30 years ago, because I was here.
But the county hasn't subsidized any project other than that purchase of the land. I mean, other than appropriating your non-recurring fund.
I always tell the park, of course I live out there, I live in that area, and so I see a lot of it. But, it's a real jewel. I think it just needs some polishing, and I think if we can support them on this, I think it's, otherwise, they went through the bidding process, they went through all these studies, which is sometimes an impossible task, and otherwise we just got to return the grant, and we might as well try to do something else with the land if we're not going to support this.
And we really feel like we have set up the park right now to be really something great for the county. We did a long-range plan. We didn't sit there and say, oh, let's do some more trails and let's do some camping. We really looked at it that, okay, if we're gonna do a restroom, if we're gonna do camping, if we're gonna do trails, where's the best place to do that? So we don't do something and then 5 years later dig it back up because, oh, now there's something else that we wanted to do. So we wanted to really have a long-range plan. That's why we did the environmental and the archaeological too, so that, years from now, when I'm no longer on the park board, there is somebody that can say, and Lisa and I are about the same age, so we'll probably retire about the same time. So that, they are set up for success. That they don't have to step back and say, okay, I don't know what Christine and Lisa were thinking back then, but I don't know they led us down the right path. I feel like we're leading not only ourselves, but future board members to a really great park. I think it's time that people understood what a great park they have, because I think there's a lot of people that don't even realize it's there. They still think of it as the 4-H fairgrounds and that's it. They never get past the gate and go into the campsites.
This is one of those major capital improvements that have, as they've gone through the period of years, that this is one of those hitting.
What are you estimating though, when you have that many more amenities added? How are we gonna have to add to our staff up there?
Staff up there. That's the one thing that we've looked at, that even this year, when we had our assistant superintendent resign and we were hiring another one, You know, I told Bob, I said, I hope he stays there for a long time, but again, looking at it from the standpoint that the gentleman that we hired has an associate degree in conservation. So we wanted to make sure that we had that thought process there too. So we're looking at it from that standpoint. We looked at it from the standpoint that Bob was having a lot of overtime in when this person resigned. And so looking at it, maybe we need a part-time person year-round. So we are looking at that sustainable. You know, do we have to add people? You know, people are telling us, well, can we reserve camping online? We haven't done that yet because we know that would cause us to have an administrative staff person. So, you know, we're looking at all of those things, but we're hopeful that if we have to get to that point, that would be when we would have additional campsites, because I think the design itself, and it doesn't mean that we will do it all, but it's told us where we can put 105 campsites. Right now we have 34. So if we triple the number of campsites we have out there, if now all of a sudden instead of $50,000 a year, we're raising $150,000 a year, that should allow us to add a staff person who can not only help with things that are going on at the park, but that administrative function as well.
Because that camp money does go into the park fund, the operating fund.
In the general fund.
No, it goes into the parks operating fund.
Okay.
What they collect stays with the park.
And how is that spent then?
That's what you, in your budget book, that's what pays for Bob's salary, the assistant's salary, their benefits. And then we do split some of that with the 4-H. We settle up at the end of the year. Their fiscal year, not our year. So it's like in.
Saying, how many years has the commissioners been given the park board, $50,000? You know how that's been going?
It's in the parks. The park has its own tax fund. They collect money and then that is moved over to the non-reverting fund. It's been many years. I'd have to research back.
Okay, so help me understand. So the property tax money moves over non-reverting, and then the operating budget is basically.
The operating budget is what runs Bob and that department.
Right, but that's the funds that come in from.
That's the fund that comes in, park receipts, shelter house rentals, tax rates, that comes in to that fund and stays there for the park's purpose.
The 50,000.
But then we take 50,000 of that and move it over to the non-reverting every year. And that has to stay in that fund for projects, big capital.
So just 50,000 of what's collected.
Right. Now, they do use some of that money for like their park plan, trying to think, like shelter house repair and maintenance, stuff like that.
Our non-reverting is basically capital improvements.
Right.
And we upped the non-reverting, so it's in the budget, 75,000.
75 is,
right.
This year we asked for more because we knew we were getting ready to do projects.
And if the park fund has enough money in it, then you can do that.
So any other questions? Don't you have anything? Sonia?
Parks tax rate is not even a nickel per 100.
So you're getting a good deal for that nickel.
It's a great park. I'm looking like, you know, we live out there, and I mean, we go out there a lot, so. I love the lake and the paved path around there. We love the trail that goes through the woods.
It's amazing how many people use that walking path, you know, it really is. You know, every time I'm out there, there's a few cars parked there, usually.
And again, I think, like I said, it's one of those amenities that makes Du Bois County what Du Bois County is. Their quality of life, people want to come back here. And that's why Jasper and Huntingburg, you know, they're doing trails and stuff like that. I live in Huntingburg, and when I'm coming through, I see all the sidewalks now that are being put in. It's because people want other ways to move around. And they want other things to do that are close to home, and that camping provides that connection with nature.
So I guess the clear everything up, we're gonna ask, we would need a motion to do this.
Well, you'd have to make a consensus, because I have not advertised it, so I'd advertise it for the December 13th meeting. They're gonna have bid openings, but they can't award anything until after that meeting, if you approve that money.
And we can still do it this year, right?
Yes.
So, is everyone ready, or any more questions? Otherwise, let's see, who's in favor of using $350,000 of added funds for the sports park? Okay, well, we got that, so.
Thank you. You guys, you should all have my email address and my phone number is usually on my emails. If you have any questions, please feel free to call me. We really want this to be a success, and your input is valuable to me, so please don't hesitate to give it to me.
Let's just keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Bids come in.
Yeah, that's your next battle.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for your
Thank you.
work. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Lisa, how many how many balls in the air do you have going on all the time?
Want me to talk about health or not?
I can show you. I'll bring out the monthly, what was the name of that list? The projects list.
Project status report.
Yes. It's
Lisa-
amazing. They have
Lisa
a-
is working on the help grant with us, so.
Yeah, right.
They have
Which looks
everything
kinda
I
promising.
know, every single employee, every project they're working on. Have you timed in with tour?
I'd say they almost have to be able to keep
Okay.
track of it.
I was gonna say, we have that many people out there, it'd be a great tie to get in and get,
Yeah, because I know a couple years ago, there was a group that had called tourism in, and it was like a group of RV people that kind of travel the nation, and they travel together, and we wanted to know how many spots we had, so they could add this to their schedule. And so, we look at those things, and I know, just a few weeks ago, they had a Renaissance fair, and the gentleman who was, coordinating that had reached out and said, hey, we've got 4 or 5 people that want to camp, and it's like, okay, how many RV, how many tent? And we try to do that and coordinate when we know that there's going to be something big that's coming. But other than that, it's usually first come, first served. And we know that there, like I said, there are people that they take their car out there on Thursday night because they want to make sure they get a prime spot on Friday. But they pay to park their car there on Thursday night. So I sit there and I think if we've got 3,500 people staying out there during a 7-month period, that's a lot of campers out there. So,
And they're all looking forward to these new ones, I think.
Yeah,
What I hear.
yes.
well, and that's the other thing, and these campsites were put in, 30, 40 years ago. You had a little trailer on the back of your pickup truck, right? Now you've got a 35-foot
Just go drive around the loop.
House.
Put the trailer out there.
And so a lot of our campers, they can't get into all of the campsites. And they're laid out on different angles and stuff like that. These will all be, paved and set up so that they've got the water and the electric hookup, because that's what people are looking for. And once we get some new ones in, we'll take a look at some of the old ones and try to reconfigure some of those so that if somebody wants to come out with their pickup truck and a camper on it, they can do that. But then the 35 behemoth can get in there too.
Like spot number 1 there. You can only put the tiny one in there.
Mike, I've asked Lisa while she's here if she wants to give us a quick update on help,
Yeah,
if you don't mind.
And the other thing, were you gonna leave?
Okay, I want
I'm
to
just
take their
listening.
spot. Okay. Health. It stands for Hoosiers Enduring Legacy Program. And the city and the county sent in an application to the Indiana Office of Community Rural Affairs. You guys committed 30% of your ARPA funds. They committed 30%. And then if awarded,
Okra will give $1 million to your process as well. And we thought they were gonna make the awards on November 5th. Well, that didn't happen, but they said that they felt like they should interview both the city and the county and the other applicants, just to kind of get a feel for who came in and, you know, they're really serious about it, I guess. Anyway, we had a conference call with the Indiana Office of Community and Rural Affairs this past Friday, and the city and the county representatives were on it. I thought it went very well. Chad made some good points about working together in the partnership, as did the mayor, Dean Vonderheide. And so now there's these cohorts, they call them cohorts, that they're gonna take some of those that applied and put them in the first cohort, second cohort, or third cohort. And because they can't work with all dozen communities at one time. So those announcements should come soon. We just don't, it's not a yes or a no at this point in time. But this 12-month strategic planning process will come up with a plan that has community input on what is really a really good use for those funds. Partnering and maybe, you know, not partnering on some certain others. We don't know what's gonna come to the top, but, and part of it is hiring a community coordinator. And the Okra's gonna put in 20,000, and then the county would put in, you can use some of your ARPA monies for that community coordinator position as well. So it, we don't have an award at this point, but we had some conversations Friday.
So can you say how many people put in
They-
applied for the grant?
They didn't wanna say.
They didn't really say, and Chad and I talked about that this morning at the meeting. We kind of wanted to ask, but you didn't want to ask because you didn't want to.
Yeah, I don't know, but I
But
think it was,
it felt really good.
yeah, the conversation was very positive.
Craig and I and Lisa, I mean, there were several of us on the call, so it felt positive.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
So,
They gave us a date when they were gonna award it up in Indianapolis.
yeah, they said that the first cohort will be, you can set aside December 2nd. Is that the date?
Yeah.
Well, they said December 2nd, which is the same time we're opening bids for the park.
So
From 2 to 4, they said whoever gets in
if
this
you're in the
first cohort.
here's the date, you need to be able to come to Indianapolis. So it's kind of like, why are you telling us?
So we would be in the first cohort.
We don't know.
We don't know. It's not a bad thing to be in the
They
first or the second.
Well,
You
they
kind of-
kind of asked, if you don't get the first, will you continue on to be in the second or the third? Because some people will say no, you know.
Some people say, no, we absolutely can't wait, we know it, we want, you know, and then others are like, well, I kind of want to see what comes out of the first cohort and what are they doing? So I don't know that there's a right or wrong being in whatever cohort you get chosen in, but I thought it was positive.
It felt positive.
Yeah.
But
you never know.
You never know.
Thank you.
We did get your letter here requesting, Charmaine stay on.
Yes.
But we never asked her. So,
And that's who she attends, and it's a great week, and then you don't have to, I don't ever put in for the mileage reimbursement because I live, 7 miles away. Yes, I'll take my 35 cents or whatever.
I appreciate Charmaine's service to you.
well, thanks again.
All right, I'll take
Thank
that back and we'll fill it out when you're done.
So we'll just set that up.
We'll have to probably do a, whatever, make it official.
Right, we'll take it and make it official.
Okay, yeah, I'll just put it right there.
Yeah, I guess the next thing is,
Is that a recommendation letter, is that what that is?
They put in, they send out the, what do you call it, the appointment forms, it's an appointment form.
it's due in January for another year.
Okay.
I just
It's good, it's close to home, maybe.
So the next thing on the agenda here is council appointments, and I think tonight we'll just go through and we'll ask them.
I actually talked to one person. That's
Okay.
perfect.
Okay, I'm sorry, I can't keep missing things, jumping through this.
Sorry,
Okay,
I just thought while she was here, it was a good time to jump her in there.
Yeah, that's no problem. So it's resolution, community crossings grant match.
The community crossings, we did get awarded the second application that that Brent applied for. They're gonna give us $431,129.37.
Slow down on that 40.
129.37. Now, we have to match that 25%. But Brent, we have the fund, that lowest special distribution fund that we do the matches out of, it still has money in it. And Brent would like to transfer 200,000 from that into this so that in case there's any overages, that he could spend it. Now, according to the resolution, upon the completion of any project, the remaining grant funds are returned to the grantor and the remaining local match funds are returned to the lowest special distribution fund. So this is what we've done before. We are getting close to the end of that money, but there's still some in there yet,
Isn't
so.
that 15?
It came in 2016.
And 16, okay.
So I think we've used it wisely over the years.
Yeah, it's lasted a long time.
This is resolution 2021-36.
Do I have a motion to approve that resolution?
Someone,
I'll second.
Charmaine and Craig. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Do we want to do the other, is there other transfers that we?
I have additions and transfers, but you can,
Okay, otherwise we can talk about
you
this.
can do the,
tomorrow.
you can do the,
Okay, so I kind of made a list of them here, what's coming up. So the 911 advisory board, it's a 1 year. Correct, you're on that. So the next year, 22 to the end of the year, so you still want to go with that?
I do, please.
And then the alcoholic beverage commission, 1 year, Anthony Sang.
I talked to him, he wants to do it.
Okay.
He requested it.
Okay, DuBois Strong area development, 1 year, Mike Cleason. So I'll go ahead with that.
You want me to ask you? What official, Mike, would you consider doing it for the year?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Okay, then we got the, I didn't know if we wanted to do these because they kind of mess up, but John Mundy is a Huntingburg Economic Development Commission for 1 year, but it starts February 1st. So I didn't know if we would want to, if there's any, anybody want to contact him?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna put your name as the contact.
February 1st when it starts?
So it's February 1st to February 1st of 23.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, then Region 15, we just, Charmaine said she would be glad to serve another year. Okay, Jasper Economic Development is a 4-year term, and it's also February 1st, 22 to January 31st of 26. So
was that Mark Schmidt?
Mark,
I contacted him the last time. There was something with the city last time, so,
yeah, we messed up or something.
so this will start a 4-year for him, if
Yeah,
we would say yes.
2/1/22 to 1/31/26. Okay, that's the way it's written. I think that's the way it's written.
isn't he February 1st as well?
26.
Yeah.
21, that's fine.
Well, that would be 27.
I don't think he's up. I think he's still in there until,
I'm not.
well, that doesn't make
It
sense.
was last year that he was in, but I didn't know if there was.
These dates don't make sense because they're past.
Maybe 2022.
2/1 would be 2/1/26.
If it's 4 year, coming through 2025.
Did we reappoint him and not have this form updated?
Well, that was sent to us. Who sent that to us? But I thought I read it on there that, because I looked at that twice, because it's kind of, it's odd. Jasper Economic Development Commission, city does a form, 4-year term. It says right now 2/1/17 to 1/31/21. So I mean, it would be February 1st or January, of
But
next
he
year.
was in last year, I remember him coming.
Wait a minute.
February 21.
No, it's already
Last-
expired.
That's what I'm saying, it's already expired, so either the date wasn't updated, we'll have to check on that date.
Okay, so that might be, because I thought we did too, I thought we contacted
But
them.
maybe he was just coming in to check in, like we were asking people to do. I don't remember.
So why don't we check that and then we can, if we wanna,
Sandy let me know, then I will contact him.
I'll put that on.
We'll look tomorrow. I'll have Lynn look at it
I'm gonna
tomorrow.
put that hold on that one. Okay, public, Jasper Public Library and Chapard, you know, that's a 4-year term also. Beginning
I thought she
January.
told somebody she wanted,
Yeah, she wrote a letter.
okay.
Yeah.
She wrote a letter that she's interested, so I think
Yeah.
we go ahead and appoint her.
I think so too. I can reach out to her just to make sure, that nothing's changed.
She wrote a letter, or somebody emailed us. Emailed me.
Okay.
It's solid waste for years, Sonia Haas. Sonia,
Yes.
would you be willing to serve?
Actually,
Okay, tourism committee, this is where I see that that's gonna expire. Rachel Steckler.
I can reach out to her. That's my cousin's wife. She works for the city of Jasper,
Would you
or
want-
city of Hunter, I'm sorry.
would you wanna do that?
Did you miss one? The property tax board of appeals? Greg Abel?
Greg Abel.
Okay.
Has anyone heard from Greg?
Okay, I guess,
There was some contention with
I
him.
was gonna say, it's Greg still doing it?
I know he's still on there now, but he wasn't happy for a little while.
okay, property tax board.
He did an appraisal and Chad thought it was too expensive and he was kind of angry about it.
Okay, who, I don't really know him. Greg Abel, does anybody, but you're right, I don't have him on my list here, but that's right, his term expires. I mean, I can call him if somebody gives me his number, I can talk to him. So that is the property
I
tax.
can get the number for you.
You can maybe text or email me. Okay, then tourism, Charlene's gonna.
Yeah, I just messaged her and see if I heard back from her.
And then the Verdant Economic Development Commission, that's Dan Collin. That's February also, but I thought maybe we could just get it approved and have it ready, so we wouldn't overlook it. Dan Collier. Does anybody?
Dan Collier?
Collier, you know him?
Yeah.
Would you want to do that?
I will take care of it.
I was gonna say, I don't have personal contact with him, but I can get hold of him if nobody else does, so.
Okay, then looks like Alan Smock is in March. For the Life Springs, it's a 3-year. So I don't know, I mean, I see Alan, but I don't.
Alan's planning on coming in, maybe December 13th meeting. Did you hear back? There's been a lot of,
He's not coming, Beth and Stacy are coming.
okay. Life Springs has hired a new executive director or whatever. Alan just said there's a lot of good things going on and he would like to report.
Okay.
So, but I can get in touch with Alan. What you said, March?
Well, it starts, it says here, it's odd, March 18th, 2022 would be for 3 years. March 18th of 22 for 3 years. I don't know, did you, I didn't see any other ones that I overlooked it. So then we'll, if there's a negative, then we can give it to Sandy. Otherwise, would we do that in December? Or would we wait till 1st of January?
Since a lot of these start on January 1st, it'd probably be good to do it in December.
So if
The
there's
thing
a-
is, if you have them and you know them, let me know for the next meeting. If you don't, we can always go to that final meeting in December if you had to.
Okay. But you would do the paperwork. if
Lynn
had-
does it in my
like
office.
all the people here would.
Yeah, if you get your things to me, and then Lynn can have everything prepared and ready.
I think that's all on the appointments that I could find. So if everybody would take care of their part, appreciate it. Okay, then I guess we'll go on to additional appropriations.
I only have 2 additional appropriations that we discussed at the last meeting for the coroner. For body transportation, she needs $1,500. And then the second thing she asked for was $20,000 for autopsies.
Second one was 25,000.
20.
20,000.
Is this till the end of the year or
Just till the end of the year.
This year?
Last month, she brought some transfers to you to get some money into these line items to pay some bills, and she's out, so she needs just a little bit more. She said she's done quite a few autopsies.
Clearly.
So
Where do they do those at?
They bring in that person from Louisville, is it?
So they do them at the funeral home.
They do them here, but they bring in,
Right, somebody
I
comes.
can't, Jacoby, I think it is, I think that's his name, I can't remember, but they bring him in here and then he performs them.
Okay, so I have a motion. Make this.
I'll make that motion.
I gave the motion.
Second.
Doug seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I didn't catch
Would that
you.
be one motion?
I did them, we have them on 2 different forms.
Okay, so the first one, 15.
So the 1,500, who did the,
Becky and
okay,
And then the $20,000 autopsy.
I move we approve the $20,000 for autopsies.
Anyone?
I'll second.
Sonia seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Michael, my attendance record for the Indiana 15 back.
You know,
I have been
That frame that.
I've been faithfully executing my duties. Proof.
you can have that back. You can have it signed later.
I have a set of transfers for the Community Corrections Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Fund. I think this is a grant that Megan received to do some computer and IT work, and they need to move some money around. She's wanting to take $2,184 from travel and move it to equipment. 184. And then she wants to take supplies, $1,416.48, and move it to contractual services.
What was that number again?
$1,416.48.
Motion to make that transfer.
I'll make that motion.
Becky made a motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Becky seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
The first one.
They're
Are
both
they
on.
separated?
They're together.
Okay.
There's no method to our madness.
It's all in the same fund. You know,
Well,
that-
and the one, if you look at it, she moved other services to to something else, and then she put something back in other servers. I said, why do we do this? But
It all comes out.
it all comes out in the wash. It's a grant, and we're trying to spend it down. Our 1782 notice, which is part of our budget order, has come, and Mike and I went through it, and hopefully our budget order will be coming soon. That's usually a step right before this, so the budget order should be here hopefully in December. I wanted to tell you all that our basic county tax rate for the county part was 0.3621. And for 22, it's gonna go down to 0.3608, so it went down 13 cents. So our AV has grown, which pushed our tax rate down, so that's a good thing. It's good that we're growing.
And not that it'll change a lot, but that should help the circuit breaker, correct?
You hope so, but you never know. It could push people, if their people's property values went up, it can push them closer to the circuit breaker, which would make it more money. It just depends. We did compile the budget book for you today. I wanted to let you know the community corrections grant was just approved today, right as we were compiling this. So we put in the new revised numbers. You'll see it next to their stuff. They didn't fund some things, they did change some things, so we put in that revised out on the side. We left what you guys appropriated, but we put it out so you'd have the new numbers.
I'm curious if they funded some of those positions that they were asking for.
They did not do some of them.
But they did some?
They cut out some part-time with free trial, they changed Megan's salary, we pushed it all to one and they kind of spread it out. Trying to think what else. I mean, just a quick look today, so Megan's at a conference, and I called her and we kind of went through it real quick, so, before I signed it.
Is that all the transfers or?
That's all.
Okay, I just want to make a comment on the jail progress. You know, the pre-engineered steel building erected it, or got delivered, and they, I think I was up there this morning, they got 3 days just about finished, so it's probably 2/3 of the building already erected, you know, the steel part of it erected. And then the conventional steel, they got a lot of that up over the new kitchen and medical area, and mechanical and electrical rooms. And then the other thing is the 911 area is being, is being designed by the architect, and that should be, those drawings should be completed towards later part of this month, and then get bids for the contractors. So, we can see what that's additional costs. So, otherwise pretty impressive what they're moving on, but the weather's been pretty decent. They've been able to work, they got out floor, made pod poured, and so they can work without, it's not muddy out there, don't get that mud. So it's about all I have, really, I think.
So what are thoughts on the downtown? They're waiting for some kind of an answer.
I mean, personally, I'd like to see what the breakdown of those, to see what our part's gonna be, honestly, and then go from there. Because I have no idea what it's gonna be, it seems, with the art, it's gonna be an engineer's estimate, on the ramp and that kind of thing. Are they gonna make us pay for our curb, around the perimeter of the inner square?
When you presented to the commissioners, it sounded like anything that happens over there is our.
That's kind of that's the way I took it also,
It looks nice, but is it necessary? Would anybody actually walk the inner circle? The outer circle around the courthouse?
I mean, it's little pods, it really doesn't look too different as far as layout goes. I mean, besides taking up
Talking
two
about
parking spaces and
this,
stuff
that
like that.
sidewalk that
Sidewalk.
goes around.
The squirt book.
I'm just in favor of having that curved, you know, maybe if there's a sidewalk that goes, I mean, there's already I don't even know, I haven't walked on that side of the courthouse, is there a sidewalk that goes up by the fountain?
No.
It's,
Behind the fountain, isn't it?
No,
No?
I jumped
Isn't
over
there
that
like-
thing, there's nothing there but plants.
I thought, oh,
I mean,
I
I
thought there was like some area behind there or around there that, yeah, that was paved.
Because we wouldn't really have to pave, take pavers down in our 3 spots.
That's what I didn't think
You know,
was necessary.
We're not part of that irrigation, so it runs, you know.
You know, what I see with those, you know, not to, you know, be negative on everything, you know, those pavers, you know, Scott's gonna have to keep that clean, you know, because, you know, when you deliver a prisoner there, you know, can't have, you know, those pavers are gonna be tough to clean because they're gonna have to be cleaned by hand, really. You know what I'm saying, you know, those 3 Spartans, I think they will be, because, you know, he doesn't, it's just like a sidewalk almost, so it'd be easier to take it up off concrete. Plus, you know, why have, it seems like that could be a maintenance item for the county in the future. For the pavers.
yeah, someone will have to maintain it, and since it's county property, it will be us.
It didn't be us, yeah. And you know, those, you know, I said something to the city engineer, I called him about, you know, I've done some research on those pavers. There's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of up and down on it because they, you know, unless you got a very good base and drainage, they start walking on you and, you know, where people park, well, then the wheel goes down, you know, in that same parking area each time. You know, so and I said something to him, I said, you know, you're just so you don't have to redo them in 2 years or 3 years.
I mean, I think it'll hold up for a while, but eventually it's gonna get bad, because even, I think I mentioned in a previous meeting over in Huntingburg, there's the manholes are rising, you know, the pavers
Pavers
are
are sinking, you know.
around the manholes.
So they have a tendency to do that, you know, when you bring that water through them. So I would rather have concrete, I think I said something to Chad or Elmer, you know, that's my opinion, but it's really their decision. The commissioners. But I think we ought to wait to see what that cost is, maybe we can discuss
You
it.
had that outlined in an email. What exactly would the county be, what would be considered like direct costs, like the ramp?
The design of the ramp.
The design of the ramp, okay?
Go ahead.
The parking spaces over there,
They said the 3 parking spaces,
okay? And then
Monument.
the curbing around it, and what else?
and then that sidewalk.
Oh, well, the
monument base.
yeah, the monument, whatever improvements have to be made to the monument.
I thought that the commissioners gave money, or they told him to go ahead and get some approval on that.
Well, they got some blocks on it, but they're gonna take the fencing down and get it stripped and get it repainted and repaired, and because the fencing has to go back up.
And there's some monies at the foundation or monument, from what I
They're
understood.
hoping to set that up.
Okay.
I didn't think that would be part of this this.
I know they keep talking
I thought
about
the
it, so.
repair of that monument is gonna be,
Something outside of it, okay.
you know, I mean, we're gonna pay for it, but the commissioners, because they had a quote for that base, that limestone base, to repair that or replace it the other day.
Scott had some quotes to get stones to replace them.
Right, the limestone. And then the guy that's doing the church out there is gonna do this. Is what I understood.
So my personal, I don't know, if we can get some public input, but the idea of the sidewalk that just goes around the exterior edge of the courthouse property. I don't know.
They're gonna widen all that. So what's gonna go there then if we don't? I mean, I'm not in favor of that sidewalk, but what will go to those grass?
And then they also have the,
The rumble strip stuff.
well, the crosswalk that comes up to it, I guess.
You got the pavement, the blacktop or asphalt, then you got a rumble strip, you're saying, then you got the curb, then you got a sidewalk, is the way I read that.
I don't think there's any curb.
It seems like it's good.
There's no curb, it's curbless.
Well,
I've been in a, yeah.
it's not a curve, it's a, you know.
Not yet, it's a transition, probably straight.
So, I mean, my only thought is it's kind of gonna be dangerous to walk out there on the edge of that thing.
It is.
Well, yeah, I mean,
But, I mean, does anybody actually walk around that? Would anybody actually walk around the exterior of that? I mean, I don't know. Because the way it happens now is people, they walk along the square until they get to where the you know, what, the north or the south or the east. They don't walk up to the side, the west side.
I don't know what you meant, but it seemed, Doug, it seemed like it was more for decoration.
Yeah, like a transition, like, well, at least that's how I looked on the pictures they were showing. It was like the rumble strip was white, and then they said that there was another color. So it just kind of seemed like it was just for fluff or
Right.
for their irrigation, whatever. I don't know if that really affects us as far as how the water would run and all that stuff. But just kind of,
And that's kind of what I see, it kind of just looks like decoration.
yeah, just like extra
Or more than.
I mean,
aesthetic to it.
would it get used and is it worth the bill? You know?
You mean the sidewalk
The
around the
sidewalk that goes all around the exterior. The circumference of the square.
Is the
That word.
sidewalk being added because of the number of crosswalks, so you have easier access? I've been to a few presentations and I've never heard that anyone asked the purpose of that sidewalk, so it's a good question.
I mean,
I think it probably is because they're kind of pushing things back towards where like the shops are or whatever. It seems like those parking spaces are going a little further back, so it's creating more room, so they're kind of.
I do know that the design have taken away the curves and adding kind of a slope and a rumble strip type of thing is and I don't know good or bad, but I know it's been a recent practice around towns and communities of, I don't know, I'm affiliated with the Congress of New Urbanism and about walkable communities and that seems to be a trend. I don't know
Is
how.
it a necessary thing?
Is it necessary?
Right. Or is it just for like, it kind of
They're
seems
saying
like.
that, because your speed
Makes it
limit's
look pretty.
10 miles an hour. Correct. So the thought process is, okay, if you're gonna, get close and hit the rumble strips, you're supposed to be only going 10 miles an hour, you should, be able to go. And then I guess it's more ADA accessible, because you don't have the curve in it.
It seems like they go faster when you're about getting hit by them.
I'm thinking about okay, so we already have the crosswalks on the north and south side and the east side. The only ones, that would be affected by not having the circumference, sidewalk is the west side, but, the entrance is all on the east side, so it doesn't seem like you'd be like, okay, let's make absolutely sure we have 2 crosswalks leading up to the fountain. I don't know. That just seems excessive.
Don't we already-
Question to ask.
Don't we already have 2
that
crosswalks?
question. I think,
Going up to the fountain.
should be identified.
We already have 2 crosswalks going up to the fountain. Sorry,
Yeah,
interrupt you.
no.
But we already have 2 of them over here on the
I
west side.
don't know if there's one on the far side by the
Yeah.
chiller. I don't think there's one on that side.
Yeah, the
What's
west,
up?
On the west side, I don't think there's a crosswalk coming up to the chiller pit. I think it's only on the parking side, where the handicap parking is.
I can swear that there's one over by the old Libby's.
I don't know.
well, we can check tonight.
Yeah, we can wait.
Yeah.
When we-
Just
I think it'd be interesting to see what happens, because there's a dip in front of the old Sternberg building. I mean, are they gonna, I don't know, if they shave that road down, but then you don't want that water running into the building up there. I'm not sure what goes on there.
How is that gonna happen?
I'm
That's a
interested to
pretty
see
big
that.
dip there.
Well, he made the comment, Chad made the comment, Chad Hearn made the comment, that
Northwest side.
there is a dip there, but they try to lower it a little bit.
Yeah.
but I don't know what that means.
Yeah, where do they do that? Is
With the
that,
percent
The water's
grade,
still gonna go that way,
Yeah.
no matter.
Well, and then those, what I thought I heard at one time was holding tanks underneath some of that water, the papers is gonna go down into holding tanks, so it doesn't go into the building.
Unless there's a.
What if it like rains a lot, is it?
Oh,
it's
that's
only
a
half-
great Hail Mary
How much
shot
are they
right
gonna
there.
hold
Yeah.
before stuff floods?
Exactly.
The water from the holding tank? Or the flowers?
Oh, no, that was all, that was
That was-
expressed in one meeting, but that could have been a year ago that I heard that. But that's supposed to be the
That's my
irrigation.
main concern, if the county is going to be funding all of the direct costs that are on the county property, I don't see that there's an actual need or that it'll even get used, a sidewalk that.
The only thing would be if,
Oh. I hit my thumb.
Yeah, the current
Sorry.
sidewalks, the current sidewalks are gonna stay, nothing's changing as far as that.
Well, actually, I'm trying to think of the picture on the ramp side,
There's no sidewalks.
it looked different.
Besides over
if-
there, there's like a little,
there's
There
only
is
so many
around
handicap
the
spots, and you have
On this
somebody in
side.
a wheelchair, and they're way over there, do they need that to get over to the ramp or anything? Or, that's what I was wondering about the handicap
That may be
spots.
the thinking, I don't know.
I don't know either. Okay, so
if we don't do this curb or the walk around
Oh, that's-
sidewalk thing, we add some more parking spaces.
Sidewalk, and, no sidewalk to
No.
go over.
Well,
For at
actually,
least,
I think it's even gonna be less,
So people who
because
park
if they're
here
taking away
have to
8,
walk to go
then they're gonna make
over.
this year for law enforcement, so this is,
There's gonna be a
and we
So
we
there's
have
still
one for
more.
veterans.
They're taking away
Veterans.
8, and they're taking away these over here. They're taking away another 3, putting law enforcement, and then taking away those 3 over there. So they're not taking away 8, they're taking away
I just think that that's just.
14.
because we got veteran service people who park over here.
Yeah, and then that's our service.
Well, that's, I guess we have to see if that's anything.
I mean,
Not,
it's their project, they should
But
do
they're
whatever
adding
they feel is
two.
right.
No, they're taking those 2 away, because that's for,
Right, but she said they were adding two somewhere
Two on
that there was
Sixth
no parking spaces anyway.
Parallel. But I thought they were, I thought they said they were
But-
just meeting
But
it.
yes,
I
they
thought-
are taking over.
I thought they said they were parking it over, adding 2 over here, but then they again said that 2 of these are gonna be for sheriff's departments, police, and then 3 on the other side for police. So they took away 8, they added 2, then they took away another 5.
So we take that money. Yeah, it's there gonna be
So
more
they took
than.
away 14, but added 2 more, so they really took away 12.
That's usually-
Which, I mean,
Bring it on.
people park where they
Yeah.
should park. I don't think it would be as bad of an issue,
There's
but
an election.
I think there's-
when people kind of hop around the square, you know, try to.
I think we need the cost before we can really do anything.
but
So
Craig's-
okay.
Well, and it's also kind of hard when you have permit parking.
It's pretty.
And
So many places around the square as well.
I didn't
We'll
think
fall back up to
that
40.
sidewalk thing was gonna be dangerous. The one I freaked out was the Jasper, when they extended the sidewalks of Newton Street all the way to 30? And it's like, okay, so now you have cars and trucks going 35 miles an hour in a sidewalk right next to a curb.
It's not dangerous.
That's dangerous.
But
I couldn't
from
believe it.
Councilman Paul Lori said that when they did that, the state then said, oh, we're gonna make improvements to 231. He said, there's a good chance all that'll get ripped out.
Get ripped out.
So there's nothing like communication. I mean, there's a chance it won't, but
January 24th, is that?
Because having a
fine
sidewalk
with me.
right on the curb, on the street that's 35 miles an hour.
That gives us time to advertise in January, which
Everything
is
that
nice,
tells
because it'll
you
be in that
traffic
calendar year.
engineering is, that is dangerous and should not be done.
Are you saying that for the first meeting in January?
So
yeah.
Sandy was asking if we could maybe set the first January meeting, so.
You can do more, I just,
24th work for everybody, Monday the 24th.
I'm wide open that day.
Wait a minute. Is that 22?
it's just, we've got a couple of things like the 4D where you guys have made that a full-time, I'm gonna have to advertise for that salary. Substance abuse council, we always do that in January. There's a couple things that we need to work on in January, so.
So Is that all right?
Is that early enough?
That's fine. I just needed a date so we knew how to start advertising.
January 24th at 4 o'clock,
4:30.
4:30.
So did Shanny Phil get his stuff straightened out?
He came to the commissioners this morning and they did go back to 35 hours. And she's gonna be a person like the courthouse where if she works over 35, she's starting to get comp time. I say she, it could be he, they, whatever you wanna call it. So it's gonna be 35 hours and then comp time will be accrued if they go over that. But he wants to keep the other two who are already there the way they've been. As long as they're here, they'll be grandfathered into hourly for the time being.
So are the planning meetings over for the city of Jasper? You know, like,
Enjoy the rest of
this
your
is what they're gonna.
So yeah,
Bye, thank you. This is what they're gonna submit.
They had talked one time that there may be one in January. This is also when the cost of all this comes in. I mean, Dean may fall off his chair again when it's like, oh my gosh. Because we've already been through that once where, you know, they were taking it all the way down to the river, or, you know, that came in at 14 million or something. So and Dean had said, could very well be, we don't have papers because it all depends on what the cost is gonna be.
Okay, so they might change it and have to put curbs with, you know, asphalt all the way up.
Do you guys want to go ahead and set the February meeting?
Sure.
Because I actually have an appointment on the 14th that evening.
The
And
week
then
after that is
the
a holiday.
21st is President's Day,
So we'll have to do it on the 28th.
28th. If that works for.
28th. Does that work for everyone?
We can set any meeting you want, I just needed at least the first one.
Just knock out the whole.
Yes. That's where it's at. Don't everybody, so yeah.
So February,
28th. Okay. So our next meeting is on December 13th. So. Okay. All right, so if there's any other business?
13th and then the 29th, right? That finishes up.
Right.
I move we adjourn.
Motion second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Good evening. Well, I was sure how this was gonna come off.
We're watching the John Adams series with the kids, and there's a part where it talks about, you know, the